The Ultimator, Commander David Martinez. Music stood in the observation deck of Horizon Station, Earth's newest orbital facility, watching the sun rise over the Pacific Ocean. It was March 15th, 2183, and humanity had finally achieved something remarkable after decades of internal conflicts, wars over resources, and political divisions. Earth had united under a single peaceful government. The scars of the past were healing, and people were looking toward the stars with hope rather than fear. David had spent 20 years in Earth's Space Exploration Corps, and he had seen the transformation firsthand. Cities that were once battlefields now flourished with gardens and innovation centers. Children who would have grown up as refugees now attended schools that taught them about cooperation and exploration. The world had chosen peace, and it was working. The communication console behind him suddenly erupted with alert. Lieutenant Sarah Morrison rushed over from her station, her face pale. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission. It's not from any Earth source." David turned quickly, his military training immediately taking over. Despite the peaceful times, for 3 years Earth had been sending signals into deep space, hoping to make contact with other intelligent life. The scientific community believed that first contact would be a momentous occasion, a chance to learn and grow. But as David watched the main screen flicker to life, he felt a cold sense of dread. The being that appeared was unlike anything humans had imagined. It had a body that seemed to shift between solid and liquid forms, with colors that hurt to look at. Directly, when it spoke, the voice came through in perfect English, though there was something artificial about the translation. "I am Coordinator Vex of the Galactic Confederation. Your primitive broadcasts have been detected. It is time for Earth to take its place in the greater universe." David straightened his uniform and approached the screen. "This is Commander David Martinez of Earth's Horizon Station. We welcome this contact and hope to establish peaceful relations with your confederation." The being's form rippled in what might have been amusement. "Peace is not a concept that applies here, human. The galaxy is divided, and every species must choose where it stands. Let me explain your situation clearly." Coordinator Vex proceeded to describe a galaxy that was nothing like Earth's hopeful dreams. 3 massive factions had been locked in an endless war for over 600 years. The Iron Collective believed in military supremacy and turned every species they encountered into warriors and weapons manufacturers. The Trade Dominion focused on economic control, transforming civilizations into production centers and resource suppliers. The Tech Assembly pursued knowledge at any cost, using other species as research subjects and experimental populations. Every new species that enters the galactic state must align with one faction. Vex explained coldly, "Neutrality is not permitted. Those who refuse to choose are eliminated or absorbed by force. You have one standard cycle which translates to approximately 30 of your Earth days to make your decision." David felt his stomach tighten. "What if we need more time to understand our options?" "There is no more time," Vex replied. "We have been watching your world for some time now. You have recently ended your internal conflicts and developed basic space travel. This makes you valuable. The Iron Collective sees potential soldiers. The Trade Dominion sees workers and consumers. The Tech Assembly sees test subjects with interesting biological and psychological traits. Choose wisely, because this choice will determine the future of every human who will ever live. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge of Horizon Station in shocked silence. David immediately contacted Earth's Global Council, and within hours he was standing in the emergency session chamber in Geneva, addressing the leaders of the unified world government. Chancellor Patricia Akinkuo, who had been instrumental in bringing peace to Earth 15 years earlier, listened to David's report with growing concern. She was a woman who had lost her entire family in the resource wars and had dedicated her life to ensuring that such conflicts would never happen again. So they want us to pick which master will serve. Chancellor Akinkuo said quietly after David finished his presentation. That's essentially correct, David confirmed. None of these factions are offering partnership or friendship. They're offering different forms of servitude. Dr. James Chin, Earth's leading xenobiologist, had been analyzing the transmission data. I've studied the linguistic patterns and body language of Coordinator Vex. This being was not negotiating, it was delivering an ultimatum. In their culture, the very concept of saying no to this demand probably doesn't exist. The council chamber erupted in debate. Some members argued that joining the Tech Assembly would be safest, as it would allow humanity to advance scientifically. Others believed the Trade Dominion offered the most freedom, as economic partnerships might be less invasive than military or scientific control. A few even suggested the Iron Collective, reasoning that military strength could eventually lead to independence. But Chancellor Akinkuo raised her hand for silence. She stood slowly, and every eye in the chamber turned to her. 15 years ago, she began, her voice carrying the weight of hard-earned wisdom. This planet was tearing itself apart. We fought over land, resources, ideologies, and pride. Millions died. Entire regions became uninhabitable. And then somehow we found the strength to stop. We chose a different path. We chose peace, not because it was easy, but because we finally understood that the alternative was extinction. General Marcus Webb, the head of Earth's Defense Initiative, stood up. Madame Chancellor, I respect everything you've accomplished, but this is different. We're talking about galactic superpowers with technology far beyond ours. If we refuse and they attack, we cannot win a conventional war. Akono nodded slowly. You're absolutely right, General. We cannot win their kind of war, but perhaps we don't need to fight their kind of war. Dr. Lisa Patel, Earth's chief strategist, leaned forward with interest. What are you suggesting? We've spent 15 years building a peaceful civilization, Akono continued, but peace doesn't mean weakness. We've developed technologies for exploration, medicine, and sustainability. Our AI systems are designed to solve problems creatively, rather than just calculate outcomes. Our people are educated to think independently and adapt to challenges. We've created a society where every person matters, where innovation comes from cooperation rather than competition or fear. She paused, letting her words sink in. These alien factions have been at war for 600 years. They've built entire civilizations around conflict. They think in terms of conquest, control, and domination, but we think Differently, what if that's our advantage? The council chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Dr. Chin spoke up, his voice thoughtful. You're proposing we refuse all three factions? It's incredibly dangerous, but I see your logic. They're expecting us to react like every other species they've encountered. They're expecting fear, submission, or desperate bargaining. Chancellor Akinquo looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. I'm proposing we do what we've been doing for 15 years. We stand together, we think creatively, and we refuse to let anyone else dictate our future. But I won't make this decision alone. This affects every human alive and every human yet to be born. We vote. The vote took 3 days of intense debate. Every region of Earth had representatives who needed to consult with their people. The discussion was broadcast globally, and billions of humans watched as their leaders wrestled with the most important decision in human history. In the end, the vote was surprisingly clear. Earth would refuse all three factions and declare its intention to remain independent and neutral. When Coordinator Vex returned for Earth's answer, Chancellor Akona delivered the message herself. We have considered your factions carefully. We appreciate that you've given us this information. However, Earth chooses to remain neutral. We will not join your war. Vex form shifted rapidly through colors that seemed to indicate shock and confusion. This is not acceptable. You do not have the authority to refuse. Every species must participate in the galactic order. Chancellor Akono stood firm. We are not refusing to participate in the galaxy. We're refusing to participate in your war. There's a difference. Humanity has learned hard lessons about conflict. We've seen where endless war leads, and we've chosen a different path. We invite peaceful contact with any civilization that respects our sovereignty, but we will not become soldiers, workers, or subjects for anyone. You are making a fatal mistake, human leader, Vex warned, his artificial voice turning cold. 3 factions will not tolerate this defiance. You have chosen extinction. Then we'll face extinction as free people rather than live as slaves. Akon replied calmly, that's a choice we're willing to make. As Vex transmission ended, General Webb approached the Chancellor. That was either the bravest or most foolish thing humanity has ever done. Perhaps both, Akono admitted. But now we prepare. If they're going to come for us, we need to be ready, and we need to be ready in a way they'll never expect. Earth's peaceful facade remained, but beneath the surface, humanity began the most intensive preparation in its history. Every peaceful technology was examined for defensive applications. Every scientific advance was analyzed for strategic value, and most importantly, humans began to think about war in ways that 600 years of galactic conflict had never considered. The aliens had made their first mistake. They had assumed that because Earth chose peace, Earth had forgotten how to fight. Miscalculation. 5 years had passed since Earth rejected the Confederation's ultimatum, and the planet had transformed in ways that would have seemed impossible to previous generations. Dr. Lisa Patel stood in the command center deep beneath the Swiss Alps, monitoring displays that showed activity across the entire solar system. She had aged visibly in those 5 years. Her hair now streaked with gray, but her eyes remained sharp and focused. The weight of Earth's survival rested heavily on her shoulders, but she carried it with quiet determination. Transformation of human civilization had been remarkable and deliberate. On the surface, Earth cities continued to grow peacefully, children attended schools, artists created beautiful works, and scientists published papers about sustainable energy and medical advances. But beneath this peaceful exterior, humanity had been preparing for the war that everyone knew was coming. The key had been thinking differently than the aliens expected. Commander David Martinez, now promoted to admiral, walked through the Mars research facility, observing the latest developments. The red planet had been terraformed faster than anyone thought possible, not through brute force technology, but through elegant biological solutions that worked with Mars' existing environment rather than against it. But the terraforming project had a secondary purpose that few civilians knew about. Hidden within the new Martian ecosystem were thousands of automated defense nodes, each one camouflaged to look like natural rock formations or plant growth. General Marcus Webb had taken Chancellor Akono's words to heart. If humanity couldn't win a conventional war against galactic superpowers, they needed to fight an unconventional one. He had studied every military conflict in human history, from ancient guerrilla tactics to modern asymmetric warfare. The conclusion was always the same: a smaller force could defeat a larger one if it refused to fight on the enemy's terms. The alien factions had 600 years of experience in massive fleet battles, planetary sieges, and occupation strategies, so Earth would avoid all of those. Dr. James Chin had made the most crucial discovery during his 5 years of research by studying the limited data from the Confederation's transmission and analyzing the patterns of galactic warfare. He realized something fundamental about the alien factions. They had been fighting the same war in the same way for so long that they had become predictable. Their tactics had calcified into doctrine. Their strategies followed established patterns. They expected every enemy to respond in specific ways because every enemy had responded that way for 6 centuries. Meanwhile, Earth's AI development had taken an unexpected direction. Instead of creating super intelligent systems designed for warfare, Dr. Patel's team had developed something they called adaptive response networks. These AI systems didn't just calculate optimal strategies, they could think creatively, intuitively, and even irrationally when needed. They could make decisions that appeared random but were actually based on deep understanding of human psychology and unconventional tactics. Most importantly, they could learn and adapt faster than any alien computer system designed to fight predictable enemies. The communication from Coordinator Vex arrived on a cold morning in January 2188. Admiral Martinez was the first to see it, and his blood ran cold as he read the message. The 3 factions had done something unprecedented in their 600-year war. They had temporarily ceased hostilities with each other and formed a united coalition with a single purpose: to deal with the Earth problem. The transmission was broadcast to every device on Earth and throughout the solar system. Coordinator Vex appeared on screens everywhere, but this time he was flanked by representatives from all 3 factions. People of Earth, Vex began, his shifting form more solid than before, as if he needed to appear more authoritative. 5 years ago you made an illegal choice. You rejected the galactic order and claimed the right to remain neutral. In that time, your example has spread. 12 other species have attempted to follow your path. This cannot continue. The being to Vex right stepped forward. It was a massive creature encased in black metal armor, with glowing red eyes visible through the helmet. I am Warp Prime Keller of the Iron Collective. Your species shows combat potential, but your philosophy is a disease. You have infected other civilizations with the delusion that peace is possible in a galaxy at war. The third being was a floating geometric shape that constantly rotated and reconfigured itself. I am Tradum Zenith of the Trade Dominion. Your economic isolation has disrupted carefully balanced supply chains across multiple sectors. Your refusal to participate has created inefficiencies that cannot be tolerated. The fourth figure was a crystalline entity that seemed to contain entire galaxies within its structure. I am Research Director Quinn of the Tech Assembly. Your biological and psychological development presents unique research opportunities that would be wasted under your current primitive society. Coordinator Vex form solidified completely as he delivered the final message. The three factions have agreed on the following resolution. You will select one faction within 24 hours or we will implement forced integration. Your military forces will be dismantled. Your political leaders will be removed. Your adult population will be distributed among the three factions according to their aptitudes. Your children under the age of 10 will be taken to specialized facilities where they will be raised according to proper galactic standards, removed from the corrupting influence of your failed philosophy. The transmission ended, and for a moment Earth held its breath. Then Chancellor Akin Quo, now elderly but still commanding immense respect, addressed the world from the Global Council chamber. She stood with her hands resting on the podium, her voice calm and steady despite the magnitude of the threat. 5 years ago we made a choice. We chose freedom over servitude, peace over endless war, and dignity over survival at any cost. Today they have revealed their true nature. They don't just want to control us. They want to take our children and reprogram them to forget what it means to be human. Her voice grew stronger, filled with quiet fury. They have made a mistake. They believe that threatening our children will make us surrender immediately. They don't understand that threatening human children doesn't make us weak. It makes us absolutely determined. We will not surrender. We will not choose a faction, and we will not allow them to take our future. In the command center beneath the Alps, Admiral Martinez stood before the largest tactical display ever created. It showed every ship, station, and defensive position in the solar system. General Webb stood beside him, and Dr. Patel coordinated communications with every defense node throughout human space. The alien fleet arrived exactly 24 hours later, and it was massive beyond imagination. Thousands of ships from all three factions filled the space. Beyond Mars's orbit, they had brought enough firepower to sterilize a dozen planets. Their formation was perfect, organized according to 6 centuries of military doctrine. They expected Earth to either surrender immediately or launch its small defense fleet in a desperate last stand. They prepared for both scenarios. They were ready for anything humanity might do, Except what? Humanity actually did. Nothing happened. The alien fleet waited in formation. Sensors scanning for Earth military. Response: they detected the orbital stations, the small patrol ships, the defense satellites. Everything was exactly where it should be. But nothing was moving. No ships launched, no weapons powered up, no communications were sent. For 3 hours the alien coalition waited, growing increasingly confused. Finally, War Prime Keller sent a message directly to Earth. Humans, your silence accomplishes nothing. Deploy your forces so we can end this quickly, or transmit your surrender. We grow tired of waiting. Admiral Martinez smiled slightly as he activated Earth's response. It wasn't a message, it was an action, but not the action the aliens expected. Throughout the solar system, millions of small objects that had been classified as space debris, asteroids, or industrial equipment suddenly activated. They weren't ships in any traditional sense. They were what Dr. Patel's team called adaptive response units, small autonomous systems that could think, move, and act independently. Each one was no larger than a car equipped with minimal weapons, but maximum intelligence. The alien sensors suddenly lit up with millions of contacts. The space around their massive fleet was filled with these small units, appearing from seemingly nowhere, moving in patterns that made no tactical sense. The alien tactical computers immediately began calculating responses, but the computers encountered something they had never experienced before. The human units weren't following any known strategy. They moved erratically, sometimes aggressively, sometimes retreating, sometimes just drifting as if broken. The alien AI systems tried to predict their movements and failed repeatedly. Warp Prime Keller ordered the first attack. Massive energy weapons fired from the alien capital ships, designed to destroy entire battleships with single shots. But the human units were too small, too fast, and too unpredictable. The aliens destroyed thousands of them, but millions remained, and for everyone destroyed, the others seemed to learn and adapt their tactics. Then the human units began their real purpose. They didn't attack the alien ships directly. Instead, they started disrupting the carefully organized formation. A human unit would dart in close to a capital ship, forcing it to adjust position slightly to avoid collision. Another unit would emit a strange energy signature that confused alien sensors. Thousands of units would cluster together, creating a mass that looked like a major threat on sensors, drawn alien fire away from actual strategic positions. The aliens had brought overwhelming force to fight a decisive battle, but humanity refused to give them that battle. Instead, Earth's forces were making the alien fleet fight millions of tiny, infuriating skirmishes simultaneously. Dr. Chin had predicted this perfectly. The alien factions had spent 600 years perfecting large-scale warfare. Their ships were massive, their weapons powerful, and their tactics designed for epic fleet engagements, but they had no experience fighting an enemy that refused to mass its forces, that treated each tiny unit as expendable, and they used creativity and chaos as weapons. It was like trying to fight a swarm of intelligent mosquitoes with a sledgehammer. Tradum Zenith attempted a different approach. The Trade Dominion ships activated economic warfare protocols, broadcasting signals designed to disrupt Earth's industrial base and create internal conflict over resources. But humanity's unified economy, built on cooperation rather than competition, simply ignored the signals, the psychological warfare that had worked on. Countless species failed completely against humans who had already survived their own self-destructive tendencies and emerged stronger. Research Director Quinn deployed the tech assembly's most advanced weapon, a computer virus, designed to infiltrate and control any AI system it encountered. The virus spread through space, reaching Earth's adaptive response networks within minutes. The aliens waited for Earth's systems to shut down or turn against their creators. Instead, something unprecedented happened. Earth's AI systems absorbed the virus, studied it, learned from it, and began generating counterviruses that infected the alien ships. In return, the alien tactical computers started making mistakes, not major failures, just small errors. Calculation and judgment. Ships moved slightly out of position, weapons fired a fraction of a second too late. Communications experienced minor delays. Individually, these were insignificant problems, but in a massive coordinated fleet, small errors cascaded into larger ones. The perfect alien formation began to develop gaps and weaknesses, and through those gaps, Earth's adaptive response units poured in like water, finding cracks in a dam. General Webb watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. The aliens still had overwhelming firepower, but they couldn't use it effectively. Their massive ships were designed to destroy other massive ships in open space combat. They had no defense against millions of small intelligent units that could hide behind asteroids, drift like debris, and strike from unexpected angles. More importantly, every minute the battle continued, Earth's AI systems learned more about alien technology, tactics, and psychology. Chancellor Akono broadcast a message to the alien fleet: you came here expecting us to fight your kind of war. You brought overwhelming force because that's what always works in your galaxy, but you made a fundamental miscalculation. You assumed that because we chose peace, we had forgotten the lessons of war. You were wrong. Humanity has fought wars for thousands of years. We've studied every form of combat, every tactical principle, and every strategic concept. And then we stopped fighting each other and applied all that knowledge to a single question: how do you defend freedom against overwhelming power? The answer, she continued, her voice broadcast across every channel, is that you don't fight on the enemy's terms. You don't mass your forces for a decisive battle they're prepared to win. You make them fight your kind of war, where their advantages become disadvantages, where their experience becomes a liability, and where their assumptions become their downfall. Coordinator Vexform flickered with what might have been uncertainty. You cannot win humans. We have thousands of ships. We have weapons that can destroy planets. Even if you resist today, we will return with more force. Chancellor Akono and LT Uncan GT's response was quiet but firm. You still don't understand. This isn't about winning a battle. This is about showing you that we will never stop resisting. Every time you come here, we will make you pay a price, not in the massive fleet engagement you're prepared for, but in 1,000 small defeats that add up over time. We will make occupying Earth cost more than any benefit you could gain. We will make enslaving humanity more trouble than it's worth, and most importantly, we will prove to every other species. Watching that resistance is possible. The battle continued for 3 more days, but the momentum had shifted. The alien coalition hadn't lost in any conventional sense, but they hadn't won. Either they had expended enormous resources, damaged hundreds of ships, and lost thousands of support craft, all while failing to achieve any of their objectives. The human units continued to swarm, adapt, and evolve their tactics. The alien fleet coordination continued to degrade under the assault of Earth's counter-viruses and unconventional tactics. Finally, the 3 factions did something they rarely did. They retreated, not in defeat but in confusion and frustration. They pulled back beyond Jupiter's orbit to regroup and reconsider. They had never encountered an enemy like humanity, an enemy that fought with its mind rather than just its weapons, an enemy that turned weakness into strength and used the aliens' own assumptions against them. Admiral Martinez stood in the command center watching the alien fleet withdraw. "We didn't defeat them," he said quietly to General Webb. "Not yet." Webb agreed, "but we survived, and more importantly, we showed them that we can't be easily conquered." Dr. Patel added her own observation. "Every species in the galaxy will hear about this. They'll learn that the 3 factions tried to force Earth into submission and failed. Some of them will start wondering if they can resist too." Chancellor Akinkuo addressed Earth one final time that day, her face showing exhaustion but also profound relief. "Today, humanity proved something important. We proved that peace doesn't mean weakness, that choosing not to fight doesn't mean you can't defend yourself, and that freedom is worth any price." The galaxy wanted us to choose which master we would serve. Instead, we chose to serve only ourselves, our values, and our future. As the alien fleet disappeared into deep space, Earth began assessing the damage and preparing for the next confrontation. Everyone knew this wasn't over. The aliens would return, perhaps with different tactics or greater force, but something fundamental had changed. Humanity had demonstrated that a peaceful civilization could defend itself, that unconventional thinking could overcome superior force, and that the right to choose your own path was worth fighting for. The aliens had made their mistake. They had assumed humanity would react like every other species in their 600-year war. They had failed to account for human creativity, adaptability, and the absolute determination that comes from defending your children and your freedom. And that miscalculation had saved Earth, at least for now. The war wasn't over, but humanity had proven it could survive, and survival was the first step toward something greater, showing the galaxy that another way was possible, that peace could exist even when surrounded by endless war, and that freedom once tasted could never be surrendered.